Welcome to the Beyond Ordinary Women podcast. Every 2 weeks, we post podcast versions of one of our free training videos, or you can access our videos now at beyondordinarywomen.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Hi, I'm Kay Daigle, and I'd like to welcome you to the third video in our series on a meeting that works. And I'm with Claudia McGuire again, and we've enjoyed some conversations about the before of the meeting, the during the meeting, and now we're going to discuss what happens after the meeting, which sounds like the really easy part to the whole thing. Mm-hmm. In fact, it sounds like is it even necessary to do anything after the meeting? Right. But when I think that, I'm reminded of a committee I'm on for our homeowners association at the present time. We're working on some possible amendments, changes to our bylaws, and
important things.
It's very important. We're meeting monthly. And normally after each meeting, we get a cheery email with a reminder of the next meeting date to put on our calendars and so forth from the chair. And when we met a month ago, we never received that. She did not follow up with the meeting that time. So last week I got to the meeting and she did not show up. Oh. And so we began emailing her, and she had totally forgotten about her own meeting. So I know
Did
that
y'all leave?
No, we started without her, and she arrived maybe 45 minutes late. But I do know that even for the leader, there are reasons to do things after the meeting. So how can a leader help herself after the meeting? What are some things the leader needs to do just to help her?
Right. One thing that I like to do, it just helps me to kind of wrap it up, put like a bow on that meeting, is do a little self-assessment or a self-review. Okay, did I have the right people there? Were all the right people on the bus? Did I miss somebody? Could I have invited somebody else into this that would have been an asset to that group? So go through those questions that you asked before the meeting when you were actually planning it, and kind of go through those and think, were we in the right setting, or was it too loud, or could we hear kids playing down the hall, or was it distracting? Think through that, think through your setting, think through, did I listen, or was I really controlling in that meeting and I kind of talked through the whole thing. And the question of, okay, the right people, did I talk too much? Were we in the right setting? Did we accomplish what we wanted to accomplish? Were people engaged in the meeting? Just kind of go through the meeting in your head and think about what you might do differently next time, or who you might invite next time, that kind of a thing. So do a self-review, definitely, and I think that will help you as far as just wrapping up that meeting, feeling good about it, or thinking about what you need to do differently the next time.
Right. I assume as part of that you evaluate your agenda. Could I have made the agenda better to make the meeting go better? So there are all sorts of ways to probably grow in your skills as a meeting leader.
Yes.
By assessing yourself.
Definitely, yeah. Just check out what you did wrong, what you did right, what could have been better, what could have been different. Yeah, how can I improve? That's a great thing to do. Or you could ask somebody from the meeting, what did you think about how, especially if you're learning, what did you think about that meeting? I want your honest feedback about, did I talk too much? Was I listening? Did I kind of discount anybody's feelings or ideas? What could we do differently? How would you have changed it? It's always good to get feedback from somebody that you trust that's going to tell you the truth, and that's always good.
Absolutely. And so how does the person who chaired the meeting, the leader of the meeting, help those who are at the meeting afterwards? Is it over at that point, or is there something more to do?
What I think is really important, just like you said, you did not get any follow-up after the last homeowners meeting. I think it's really important within 1 or 2 days, 24, 48 hours, to do an email follow-up. And in that email follow-up, you just give everybody highlights of the meeting. Here's the things we discussed. Here's the things we decided. Here are the job responsibilities that we came up with afterwards. Here's who's in charge of this and that. Here's the next 3 things we need to do, our action plan. Thank them for coming. definitely. And I think that's really important that people realize that you're grateful that they were there. Another thing that sometimes happens after meetings, good and bad meetings and great meetings, is the meeting after the meeting. And what happens sometimes is somebody leaves a meeting a little upset or didn't really like the outcomes but didn't say anything about it, and they go and process with somebody else about what they didn't like, and that person was way out of line, and more of a gossip session instead of a healthy processing. If you go to a friend or a coworker or a ministry partner and you process through the meeting in a positive way, like, here's some things that came up in our meeting, and this is what I'm feeling about. Tell me what you think. What are your thoughts? You can do a positive way, or you can do very negative things that are just detrimental to a meeting and to a team if you've got a team that's working on things. So in that email, I would also give them the opportunity to ask any questions. Have you thought about anything since this meeting that we might all need to talk about, or that I could answer now that we've been through this? Maybe some things have come up. And there are people that are not comfortable asking questions that might be a little difficult to answer, or might shed bad light on them they think they would. And that might give them that chance to just send an email back and say, yeah, you said this during that meeting. I didn't quite understand what you meant by that. Give them the opportunity so that they're not off talking to someone else and maybe undermining what your team or what you're trying to do.
Or even just going over and over it in their own minds, even if they never talk to somebody else, without approaching you with the clarifying question or the problem that had arisen. Because you don't want that to happen either.
You do not want that to happen, definitely. And then I would also, once you've gone through, hey, here's the highlights, just a review of that meeting with them and the outcomes, and here's the expectation. Maybe there's a timeline or a deadline that also needs to be included in that email. And if you do have another follow-up meeting that needs to be planned, go ahead and put that in your email to say, within the next 3 weeks or 6 weeks, next month we'll be meeting again. I'll contact you with a date and time. And just let them know, yes, there's going to be a follow-up meeting. It's going to be a reporting meeting, or we're going to be talking about what our next steps are. But go ahead and give them that heads up in that email. And that way they know that you've processed correctly. They can get back with you of, that's not the way I understood this. What did I not hear? And I think that just helps everybody know that, hey, we're on the same page here. We know where we're going.
Instead of finding out later when everybody's supposed to have done something that they misunderstood what was going on, if you send them the clarifying email, the highlights, the steps, then they're going to know immediately, wait a minute, there was a disconnect. Instead of waiting until perhaps something is all the way finished before you discover that you're on two different pages.
Right, too late. And also, I think after the meeting, like you said, it doesn't just end. The follow-up email helps, but also that's your team, or those are the people you've counted on to be a productive part of that meeting. So don't be afraid to just follow up with an email or a phone call and say, hey, how's that going? Do you have any questions? Maybe it's 2 weeks later. Encourage them, support them, be there for them. A lot of people are just left hanging in the midst of some project or something that they're expected to do, researching or whatever. And I think it's just good to keep following up and letting people know, hey, I'm in this with you. How can I come alongside, or how can I help answer questions?
Absolutely. Yeah. Does anything else come to mind for after the meeting that we need to consider, to begin doing, anything like that?
I think one of the main things that I would say is just don't bore people with your meetings. As you've done your self-review, you've sent out your emails, maybe you've gotten some good feedback from the people that were in that meeting. Continue with your next meetings to implement these same things that we've talked about, and think of other ways that you could keep those meetings fresh or inviting, because some people do feel like they're being called to the principal's office whenever they're invited to a meeting. And you don't want that to happen. You don't want people to feel like, what did I do wrong? Exactly. Right. And you need a get out of jail free card. But you can always, like I think we mentioned in one of the other videos about, just invite an expert in for a few minutes. Sometimes that gives just a fresh energy to the group, or a different perspective, or choose a different setting that will bring out a different creative aspect of people's ideas or what they're thinking. But thinking about that setting, I think that's very important. And then even something like bringing in a healthy snack or custom coffee, just something that says, I care about you. Maybe it'll bolster the energy that's in the room, that kind of a thing. And include some time to just really hear from people, how they're doing, and let them know that you care about them as well as what they're bringing to the meeting. So just continue to think about fresh ideas. You can Google a lot of good, productive meeting ideas on Google and how to design a good meeting. There's lots of just articles and information out there that you can look at to help you with that.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Claudia. I feel like these 3 videos have been so helpful. I wish I had been able to watch these before I started leading myself, because as I've led meetings, a lot of it was more trial and error, and a lot of really just trying to avoid some of the really poor meetings that I had been forced to attend, go to jail on in the past, trying to avoid the worst of those. But to begin thinking about positive, more fun things each time afterwards, how could this have been more fun? How could it have been more interactive? How could it have been better? I think are really, really great suggestions. We don't ever really totally get it. We're always learning as leaders, and it needs to be a continual assessment of whatever we're doing, whether it's a meeting or some other aspect of our leadership. So I appreciate so much what you brought to this.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I'd just like to encourage all of you that we do have other resources that we continue to build on our website, other videos, other blog entries. We have a list of resources for leaders that we continue working on and building. So even if you've looked at some of these in the past, you might be surprised to find new ones at this point. And so we'd like to encourage you to do that. And once again, let me just invite you to contact us through the website. And Claudia or I would be happy to talk to you about a meeting or any other aspect of your leadership. We'd like to know what those are. Where do you need help, so that we can prepare other videos like this series to help you where you really need help. So we just look forward to hearing from you. We'd love to pray with you, and we just like to know that you're out there, really, in a lot of ways. So thank you for letting us be part of your leadership training and helping as one leader to the other. As I said, Claudia and I have just done this a long time, but we're still learning, and we're just so thankful that you are interested enough to learn skills for your own leadership.
Thanks for listening to the Beyond Ordinary Women podcast. You can find more podcasts and information about women in leadership by going to beyondordinarywomen.org. This podcast was produced by Beyond Ordinary Women Ministries. Our production team includes Evelyn Babcock, Kay Daigle, Kay Halligan, Deborah Herring, Sharifa Stevens, and John Sparks. Theme music, Back in Stride by Don Miller, used by courtesy of Christine Miller.